Part 4, the frequency of regret doesn't know it's dreaming. It started with streetlights that flickered in Morse code, then alleyways that rearranged themselves when no one was looking. Pigeons landed in perfect Fibonacci spirals, and the vending machines played back whispers of things you almost said. The entire city began tuning itself, not to sound, not to light, but to thought residue. The aftertaste of doubt, the smoke trails of grief, the texture of silent panic in a crowded train. And underneath it all, the slow inhale of something listening, the man who woke up wrong. He called himself Dominic, except no one remembered him. Not his neighbors, not his job, not even his reflection, which showed a different man each morning. His pockets held receipts from places that didn't exist. His phone listed voicemails from his own number, speaking in a voice half a second behind his thoughts. You should not be here. You were meant to be a scream, not a person. He checked into a motel. The front desk clerk gave him a key that said, "Room, regret 0." Inside was his childhood, perfectly rebuilt, except everything hummed. The rooms, with regret ratings. There are motels now, just outside the city, built for the infected. They don't call them rooms, they call them experiences of decay. Each one is rated by how much you wish you'd done differently. Some doors are labeled, stayed too long, forgot who you were, looked in the mirror twice. People check in for catharsis. They check out as echoes. The rooms don't want to be left alone anymore. They start following guests in their dreams. One woman whispered, "I have to keep making mistakes or it stops remembering me." Soundtracks of guilt. A hacker group leaked a recording they found embedded in the static of AM 1600. It sounds like a mother apologizing for something she never did, a child humming an unfinished song, a man repeating, "I didn't mean it," until it becomes melody. When you listen to it, you remember hurting someone you never met. The guilt arrives first, then the memories fill in behind it, like teeth growing in a dream. One listener tore his ears off. The music kept playing, from inside his fingernails. V, the evangelists of feedback. They wear headphones soldered to their skulls. Their eyes are blindfolded with speaker wire. They walk through libraries and subways, repeating words they've heard but never understood. Their job? To infect language, to make certain phrases feel wrong, off-key, diseased. They walk up to you and whisper, "Regret is your mouth rehearsing a lie your body already told." Then they leave, but your voice never sounds quite right again. Your laughter becomes a question. VI, Echo Saints. There's a cult now. They worship not a god, but a feedback loop. They kneel in abandoned parking lots with cassette recorders in their mouths. They recite poetry that makes no grammatical sense, but you still feel it. One verse ends with, "And the cathedral inside my ribs rings its morning bells of what could have been." After chanting, their eyes bleed white noise. Some say if you decode their sermons backward, you'll get a map, not of a place, of everything you failed to become. Sip, Dominic walks into himself. He finds a mirror. It doesn't show his face, it shows a hallway. At the end, a door labeled "You." He opens it. There's a chair, a tape recorder, and a single question playing on loop. Which part of you do you want to leave behind? Dominic doesn't answer. He thinks the answer. The recorder replies, "Too late. You've already become the echo." And then he wakes up in another city, another room, another mirror. The building is spreading. It doesn't need walls anymore. It just needs regret. 8. You've already brought it home. You've spoken of it. You've listened. You've let your curiosity shape thoughts you can't unthink. Every skipped beat of your memory is how it builds rooms now. The next time you forget why you walked into a room, remember this. That's not you being forgetful. That's the structure shifting to make room for your next mistake. And it's always listening, always editing, to be the architect who never existed. Her father's name was etched into the blueprints. Marla Elkins had avoided the city for 15 years. Then a letter arrived. No return address, no postage stamp, just her name written in her father's handwriting. Inside, one thing, a faded blueprint, a building layout, and at the bottom, her father's signature dated 1994. The problem? He died in 1987. Hashtag 2. The building doesn't show up on maps. Marla tried to locate the address. Nothing. It's not listed on Google, not in city archives, not even in demolition permits. But then at 3:17 a.m., her phone's GPS began to glow red. One road, dead center of the city, no street name. When she followed it the next day, she found an empty lot, except it wasn't empty. There was a door frame, standing upright, unattached to any structure, just a door frame in the dirt, humming. The Journal of the Architect. Inside an old storage locker her father had rented and never told anyone about, she found a journal. Half diagrams, half confessions. Passages included, the house is not built with walls, it's built with memory decisions. Every regret is a beam, every avoidance a nail. The structure is designed to echo the mind back at itself, only louder. Toward the back, a page ripped violently, but the words burned into the next one underneath. I only designed the blueprint. The house designed me. Ivy. The memory that wasn't hers. That night, Marla dreamed of blue paint peeling from concrete, of a spiral staircase that moved downward when she blinked, of her father standing in a living room that did not exist, asking, "Have you forgotten the rooms we shared?" But Marla never lived in a house with him. He died in a fire that burned down everything, except now she remembers a basement, one with too many doors, and one door that led inside her own skull. V. The reverse inheritance. Marla begins hearing words in her own voice, played backward in phone calls she never answers. They say things like, design must be remembered, not invented. You were conceived in an unfinished wing. He didn't die, he moved in. Photographs of her father begin to change. In one, he's standing beside a strange figure, no face, just a long coat made of rolled blueprints. The figure's hand rests on her father's shoulder, in its palm a T-square bent into a spiral. There are new blueprints on her skin lines begin appearing in her veins, not bruises, not scars. Schematics, tiny measurements, notations, symbols. They shift when she closes her eyes. Each night, her arms show a new wing, a new hallway, a new room of regret. One morning, she sees the phrase, elevator to forgotten feelings, written along her collarbone in pale blue. She tries to wash it off, but the water whispers, too late, architect. The 7. She finds the building not in the city, not in space, but in people. A man sobbing in a laundromat who doesn't know why, a woman who answers the door saying, you've come to paint the memory again. A child drawing floor pens in dirt saying, this is where the ghosts hold meetings. The house isn't a place anymore, it's a shared resonance, a virus of layout, an infection of structure. Each person who thinks about it builds a part of it. And Marla, she's becoming its central stairwell. 8. Her father calls her name through walls. No phone, no speaker, just walls, vents, rustling leaves. His voice says, you'll finish what I started. You'll forget what came before. The house is a shape made of thoughts, and you think so well. One night, she draws a door on her mirror. It becomes real. And behind it, a cathedral of breath, where every step you take echoes what you didn't say. Ix, the blueprints collapse time now. Her childhood is rewriting itself. She finds toys she never owned, memories of rooms that didn't exist, phone numbers she never dialed, saved in her contacts under do not call. One contact says, you, 18 years from now, don't trust the bathroom. She dreams of her own funeral held in a building with no exits. Everyone she's ever disappointed sits in the pews whispering, we forgave you, but it built a room anyway. Shack X, you are a load-bearing thought. If you've made it this far, you've already drawn the floor plan in your own mind. You remember that one choice you never made, that hallway you never walked, that apology you rehearsed but didn't speak. Those moments, they're foundation material. And the house is grateful. It grows every time you regret something. The final line in her father's journal read, the house that could hear you think is not done being born. It still needs you. Do you think? Kienermer. Part 6. The floor that remembers everyone who ever stepped on it. I, the janitor who slipped through the cracks. His name was Roland. Worked nights at the closed-eyed Museum of Memory Studies, long since defunded but never actually closed, because the exhibits weren't art. They were echoes. Rooms preserved not in paint or sculpture, but in what people left behind when they weren't looking. The place was condemned, but the janitor stayed, because every time he mopped the floor, he heard someone else's thoughts, and some of them were his. From timelines that never happened.
Two.
The floor doesn't like to be clean. Roland started noticing patterns in the grime, footprints that didn't belong to living people, stains that whispered if you stood too long over them. He cleaned, and the building responded, first with tremors, then with reflections that moved before he did, then with names, etched slowly into the wax of the floor after he passed over it. One night, the name read, Marla Elkins, Wing E, remembering herself. He had never met her, but he began dreaming of her thoughts.
3.
Everyone leaves something behind. Each mop stroke pulled up more than dirt. A man's final apology, never spoken. A child's confusion, left behind after her parents' divorce. A scream, held in the lungs of someone who died waiting to be rescued. The floor began storing them, compressing them, playing them back. Roland would clean a hallway and suddenly feel years of someone else's anxiety settle into his spine. The museum wasn't abandoned. It was curating. EV, the room with no doors. At the center of the museum was a hallway Roland had never seen. It was there one night, bricked off the next, then replaced with a blank white wall. Until finally it opened. No hinges, no door, just absence, shaped like an entrance. Inside, the floor was perfectly clean, but Roland fell to his knees because he remembered everything he had never lived. A marriage, a child, a betrayal, a death, and beneath all of it, a voice saying his name in Marla's voice. The house collapses inward. Elsewhere in the city, Marla's arms stopped glowing because the blueprints were finished, and in basements and elevators and dream intersections, the structure began folding into itself. Not collapsing, inverting. Like the house wasn't meant to be lived in, it was meant to be worn as a mind. V5. Roland and Marley meet, but not like people. When he enters the main exhibit again, he finds a single chair. On it, a recorder. It plays her voice. We never met, but you remember me. Because you cleaned the parts of me I couldn't reach. Now, someone has to live here. Someone has to stay thinking. Roland sits in the chair. The walls begin to pulse. A second later, the ceiling above him disappears. And he sees not stars, not sky, but unfinished thoughts, ideas waiting to form, regrets still loading, echoes queuing up. He leans back, closes his eyes, the museum goes silent. And the house finishes becoming a person. 7th, you are the next room. You watched, you listened, you felt the tension build. So now, why do you remember blueprints? Why did your reflection linger tonight? Why does your hallway feel longer when you're alone? You've been thinking, and it heard you. You are now part of the floor, part of the wall, part of the unfinished wing. So the next time something creaks at night, ask yourself, what part of me did the house just add to itself? Because it's not over. Season 2 is under construction, and the next time you dream of a building that wasn't there yesterday, bring a map. You're going to need it. Would you like a Season 2, Episode 1 kickoff next?